Q, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for having me. It's been long overdue.
I know we bumped into Q very briefly at Transform. We were running
Yeah.
from one side of the EXP to the other, and you briefly stopped us, and we said hi for like 5 seconds, and then we had to keep running. We were like late
Yeah.
for a meeting or something, but I'm glad
Yeah.
we're finally talking to you.
Yeah, likewise.
I have to admit, I'm a fanboy, Q, and this is one of those episodes that I'm nervo-sided, as my oldest daughter says. I'm nervous and excited about this one. So, thanks for
Yeah,
joining us.
no. Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts and a lot of my friends and folks that I look up to have been on it. So I'm excited to be on it as well.
Yeah, and we're gonna ask you this question later, but we ask every guest like who should we have on next? And your name
All
has
right.
definitely come up a couple of times. So
Ah,
uh great that you're
Here
finally
we
here.
are.
Yeah, we're
well,
here.
no pressure, no pressure.
All right, so let's do good news stories. So if you've
Yeah.
listened to the show, I'm sure you're familiar. We start every
Yep.
episode with good news stories. And I can kick us off, and it's gonna be a very different good news story than usual. Usually I stick with work or something personal, and I guess this falls into the personal bucket. I don't know if y'all are users of Spotify, but
Mm-hmm.
Spotify just launched this new feature called DJ that my little
Huh.
brother told me about, and it's
Oh wow.
essentially the best of every feature that they've ever put out. So it takes into account what your friends listen to, it takes into account what you listen to, and it like will recommend throwbacks. And this DJ comes on, he's like, hey Daniel, I'm gonna start off with some 90s hip hop. And if you're not feeling the vibe, you can click the DJ button and it'll switch it up and it'll give you like a
Hmm.
new set of tracks. And it's forever, I think it's gonna forever change how I use Spotify and how I consume music. So I'm
Ah,
really excited about that today.
Daniel
thanks
and
for
I have
sharing.
Daniel and I have a weekly catch up we do on Fridays. And before we even got into business, he texted me earlier today and was like, "You've got to check out this DJ function in Spotify."
I gotta
So
check it out. I use Spotify a lot, but my last few weeks has been a bit hectic, so I need to check it out. I will tonight.
do you want to go next, or do you want me to jump in with good news?
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I my good news, this is kind of a continuation as we recorded an episode earlier this week. I've been cryptic in sharing with our audience a big initiative, a big milestone in every entrepreneur's career. And I got over that milestone earlier this week,
Okay.
closed on a transaction to sell my company Workify
Oh,
to another
congrats.
organization. Thank you. Thank you. I still have to be a little cryptic only because I don't want to get ahead of public announcements, but this weekend, so the actual good news is this weekend, my daughters are with their mother. I co-parent. My girlfriend is in California, and
Mhm.
so I can just relax and do nothing this weekend and just
That's
kind of
You got a
celebrate.
date with the couch?
Got a date with the
yeah,
couch.
the binge watch and couch. That sounds like a perfect weekend. I can go next. For me, it's more on the professional front because it's really fresh. But I just started a new role that we'll talk about as we chat more today too. But it's a new role, and what's most exciting with the change is it's also my first chief people officer role. So something that I've been working on for a while to kind of build my own toolkit. So I'm just excited, and we can talk more about that as we even talk through the conversation.
Well, congrats, first of all. We probably
Congratulations.
should have
Thank
mentioned
you.
that at the top, but that's a huge milestone for you. So
Mm.
congrats on that.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
And I guess like speaking of that being the big milestone and finally getting that chief people officer role, can you just give us the journey that's taken you, you know, all of the amazing places that you've been and ultimately, led you to where you're at today at Paper?
Yeah. I'll try to keep it a bit brief because I could go on for hours sometimes. But I'll start off with like I went to college for electrical engineering. So that itself was like a interesting start. And I think it was my maybe junior year, so third year in college, I realized that I loved doing what I was doing, and I would go back and do the program again. But what I did not like was I didn't like sitting in a lab alone. I just enjoyed being with people. I enjoyed like brainstorming, solutioning, and collectively making everyone's lives just a little bit easier, for lack of better words. So I interned at General Electric, and I was on a manufacturing floor, 17, 8, whatever, 19-year-old kid on a manufacturing floor, trying to tell and help individuals that have worked on a specific machine for 40 years. And here I am telling them I'm going to help them. So clearly, right off the bat, it was like, how do you build credibility? How do you build trust? How do you understand different people? So I did that. And then when I graduated a year later, my one option was go to GE for life, which was a great option and something I was seriously considering. But I ended up starting my career at Deloitte Consulting. And what I ended up doing there, a fun fact there, was I was in the global finance transformation practice. So I was working with CFOs trying to do digital finance transformations. And the interesting part, or the fun reason I took Deloitte at that time, was I wanted to see the world. I love to travel. I love understanding different perspectives, cross-pollinating. And Deloitte's job was living out of a suitcase and flying out of a plane every Monday morning. And the points and the miles, it was like a dream job coming out of college. And not to mention, it's a great foundational spot on a professional level to start. The amount of investment you get from both GE and consulting firms in terms of project management, stakeholder management. It was a solid foundation to start my career. And then 5 years into it, the glory and the glamour of points and miles started to wear out. I was burnt out from traveling, didn't really know where I belonged, for lack of better words, because I had a place, but I was never in it. So I ended up looking for roles that were a bit unique, because by that point in my career, 5 years into Deloitte, I'd built a pretty niche skill set in where I understood systems and engineering and analytics from that kind of competency of mine. I started to understand finance. Like I was working for CFOs, so I could speak to like the accounting financial side of it. And often the finance transformation were to drive operational efficiency. So I started to understand operations because I would work with the COOs a lot to drive these transformations. And one thing I realized at that point was I just didn't want to do one function. I wanted to do as much across. I wanted to be the glue across functions because I loved understanding different perspectives and really trying to work in that white space in ambiguity, which is what I think, if I look back sometimes, that's the engineer in me that still exists today. I want to do things that I've not done before, and I want to do the hard work because the reward is just as exciting as the hard work, if not better. So anyway, so I went to Aon after that for 18 months to be precise. And my role there was global strategy and ops. I was working with all the G&A functions, trying to drive kind of a collective shared services framework. But the fun part there was it was only in Europe and Latin America, because North America, where I was based, was the HQ and the model was kind of built out there, but we had to bring in the rest of the kind of geographies. So I was traveling every other week, but it was across Europe and South America. So I still remember like my weeks were like one day in Sweden, one day in Frankfurt, one day in Paris. And there were a couple of weeks where I had to swing by Mexico or Brazil on the way back to Chicago. I lived in Chicago for 16 years at that point. And that was great, but jet lag and it was just like a whole nother level. But at that point, I'd realized that people, as we all know today and have learned, that people are the key to success or failure. And I realized that one way that I could be very impactful in driving success in an organization is through their people. So this was when my infatuation, curiosity, passion, obsession, all mixed together for working in HR started. And the reality was I applied for HR roles and I flat out got rejected. I would be put on HR projects at Aon. I would work with the HR team, but I didn't know employee relations. I didn't know the reactive side of HR. I was an engineer who did finance and was confused at that point from for lack of better words, from an external perspective. So I said, I want to work in HR. What am I going to do about it? So I quit my job at Aon at 18 months. I started my own consulting company, and I went back to the roots, which was technology, analytics, and operations. And I paved my way into HR by starting to do Workday implementations very early and learned every function of HR through the implementation of it. And that was just one quick year. And then that progressed into doing people ops and basically doing every single role in HR, because at some organizations I was at where they were relatively smaller, people ops meant everything. And then I started continuing to just work my way up. And I think over the last 12 or 13 years that I've dedicated just to the field of HR, I think it became more and more clear that HR needed the non-HR skill sets. HR needed, or the people side needed, individuals that understood business and thought outside the box, and needed that amplification of operational excellence, because that translated into employee experience, which became the focus in the last decade of how we interact with our employees. How do we actually treat them from that perspective? So that's what I've been doing. I eventually also got my MBA. Every few years, I go and do something to learn, because learning and developing and growing, especially in an area that I've not done, is what I love doing. So got my MBA, worked at JLL, and did like textbook HR ops. Like we were servicing 50,000 employees. The HR ops team was 60-ish people. And that eventually got me credibility to get a role, which was my dream role at an organization like Airbnb, which relocated me from Chicago, because I was there for 16 years, to the Bay Area. I was at Airbnb for almost 5 years. And when I started, the first year was blitzscaling, hyper growth, building a people ops org with no function in place. So really, it was me and a couple of coordinators working through how we build the function over the next few years. And then it just translated at my time at Airbnb was, how do we do things we've never done before? No HR team has done before. And it was more about identifying gaps, understanding the business, and working through that. And then I'll just wrap up so that we don't take the whole hour on this. That all led me to just building my toolkit to where I am today at my new organization, Paper. And just it's been a wild ride, and it's been super exciting to just take these right turns when I don't know something, to go figure it out. And I think it just makes me a better individual over time in terms of skills and the journey as I look at it.
Yeah, journey, I think, is a great word to wrap that up with. And what's coming up for me, Q, is not exactly knowing where your career was going, but still being open to what that next chapter might look like. Mm-hmm. And along the way, getting clarity as to, I really like this aspect of what I'm doing, leaning into that, and repeating that over and over, and kind of filling in the skills and knowledge you needed to kind of get to the dream job that you eventually got to. And I think it's just a great story. Thanks for sharing all those details.
And I think just to add on that, over those journeys, over those points, I also learned what I don't like. Which I think is just as important for folks to identify. Like, I don't like cold call and sales. When I had another one of my companies I started, I had to do it. But just being in that shoe, I have empathy for folks that do it, and know that I don't like it as well.
It's funny. Me and Steven were just talking about this like 2 hours ago. I think Steven was commenting on how, as a CEO, you have to do a lot of things that you either aren't good at, or you don't appreciate, or that you enjoy doing, but you got to do it. And it makes you a better employee for, if you ever go and work back in HR, you go back and work as a marketer, because you're going to have empathy for the people on the other teams that are doing those roles. So that really resonated for me. So speaking of landing your dream job, it's your first chief people officer role, you're at Paper. What does Paper do?
In a one line, and I'm happy to kind of elaborate, but in one line, what Paper does is, the entire mission of Paper is to build confidence in students for life. And this is from kindergarten through 12th graders. K through 12 is what we focus on, but the idea is building confidence in students for life. Another key aspect, which is what drew me to Paper as well, is the mission is really education equality. So we're in public schools and really helping kids that may not have access to a lot of, be it tutoring, be it support in math or education. So that's what Paper does. It's an ed tech company focused on really building confidence in students for life.
That's awesome. That's super cool. And why should I know you're only 2 weeks in, or a week in?
just about.
So this question might be tough for you to answer, or maybe not. But why should me and Steven be jealous that you get to work there?
I think the biggest thing is we're impacting the next generation. And I think, having all of us have kids, and, if we can help set them up for success, I think you should be jealous that I'm in the weeds doing that.
Well, I am jealous and I'm grateful, Q. I think that for those that have kids, you realize how different the world actually is today.
Yeah,
And what challenges the youth have in a what feels like a much more complicated world than it
exactly.
was when I grew up in the 80s.
Yep,
And
same
that's
here.
I know I'm old when I say, oh, back in my day, things are a lot
And
simpler.
you say that a lot.
I do say that a lot. And it's because I see it every day with my daughters,
Yep.
like what
Yep.
what their struggles are, what they talk about. And honestly, some nights it's hard to go to sleep because of how preoccupied I am. And so love what you're doing. So we have a lot we want to jump into.
Yep.
It was about this time last year when you became what I call LinkedIn famous. You were at Airbnb, and
Yep.
Airbnb had recently announced the live and work anywhere policy, which I think for those of us in the people space, it's just one of those articles or programs, kind of like the Netflix culture deck, from a couple of decades
We were
ago.
talking about it on the show.
Yeah. We were like, wow, did you see this? And who is this Q? And you got to talk to him. And I think that was echoed across LinkedIn and the posts and the traction that you guys got. And that was really Airbnb's response to the newfound flexibility created by COVID-19 and everything else that was happening. And so I had like scripted questions here, but I'm just going to kind of, I'm going to go a different direction. And
Go for it.
I personally, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in I just envision like task forces and war rooms and like, groups of cross-functional teams meeting to talk about the commercial impact and the employee impact and how could we take this challenging situation and turn it into a positive situation. And so is there any way that we can get like a behind the scenes walkthrough of how live and work anywhere came about?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think I can give you a little bit of additional kind of context as well. So let me to give you kind of the journey that got us to the Live and Work Anywhere program. Let me start back in kind of peak COVID, so maybe the summer of 2020, or even a little bit before that. In March of 2020, our offices closed. They were closed for 2 years. We did not open them. Our business completely took a nosedive in Q2 of 2020. We had to figure out how we were going to literally survive, had to do, unfortunately, a big layoff. And then what happened was the summer of 2020 came by, and our employees were telling us that they wanted to go and travel around the world. And at that point, early in the pandemic, it was more for personal reasons. So it was either I was from a different country and I wanted, because we were kind of locked down literally in our societal lives as well, I wanted to be close to my family, or I wanted to go take care of my parents. It was more in that context early in the pandemic, because including several folks, including myself, and a lot of us were just trying to be mentally sane with that shift in lack of socialization as well. So what we had a choice at that point. We said, no, you cannot go. Obviously, we were getting ready to IPO. There's a lot of things you need to be compliant that this can push. We had a choice to say, no, you cannot go, or we will support you and you can go and we'll help you through all the complexities at that point. And, in typical Airbnb fashion, we want to make sure we can do the maximum we can for our employees, because just saying no is an easy route. And that's how we've historically even built all our programs. So we stood up a task force in literally like 4 or 5 days in August of 2020. And this task force, we essentially incubated a program under my team, which was called the Digital Nomad Program. And we said we augmented it with consultants because we did not have the expertise at that time in terms of reading tax treaties between countries, understanding complications related to privacy laws and tax and payroll. And there's like, it literally took a village, right? There were like 7 or 8 functions that had to weigh in on the complexities before an employee would go. So we did this high touch approach where any individual that wanted to go overseas, they would open a request with us. My team would understand where they were going, how long they were thinking of going. We would marry that up with our own data that we had, like what's the role of the individual? What do they have access to customer data? We would then orchestrate a cross-functional review analysis for every individual. And then we would go back to them and we would say, hey, Q, you can go to XYZ. You do have the right work authorization, XY, all the criteria. And by the way, you can go for up to 180 days or whatever the tax treaty would allow between that combination of country that Q in this scenario wanted to go to. And we would let them know some of the complexities and ownership they're taking on to the extent we could in terms of tax liabilities. We would explain to them why they could only go for X amount of days because it puts liability on us, and we would move forward. For now, I'll fast forward for maybe 15-ish months, August 2020 to early 2022. So whatever that is, almost 18 months. In that whole period, we were running this program. The key aspect to note is when we launched this program, we thought it's for 1 year. Let's do this for 1 year, support our employees like we always do. Life will go back to normal. We'll move on with our, the way we think of our employee value proposition after that. Towards the end of 2021, we realized, or maybe early 2022, the world is never going back to what it was. It's going to be a new variation of whatever it is. And we were again put in this situation to make a key decision, which was, do we just revert back like a lot of organizations were doing, which is like, okay, we're all just going to come back to the office, because Airbnb we were not a remote first company pre-pandemic. So this was a big shift, right? Do we just do what the other companies are saying, let's go back and every variant just keeps pushing it out? Or because we had not made any stance on where we thought the future of work in that regards was going up until early 2022, which mind you was pretty late. Our employees were like, come on, take a stance, right? Like, what are you going to be a remote company? Are you going to call us in? Like, we want to plan our lives. We really want to kind of figure it out. So in Feb of 2022, we put another task force together of a small team. And we said, now we got to figure out what is our long-term permanent future of work strategy and policy, because the world's not going back to what we thought it was. So we had this kind of 2-month accelerated kind of task force timeline. And we got the teams together, including a lot of our executives and our founder as well. And we said, what do we want to do, right? Like, we can again say, okay, the nomad program's going away. You're going to be in the office 3 days a week. We had a lot of variations. And what we understood and learned was, and this is where I was going back to kind of my initial journey, was the non-HR skill set. I really wanted to kind of push for collectively, what is in our best interest as a business and what do our employees want? I think the magic happens when it's a win-win situation for everyone. Right. And often you can't be in a win-win situation if your business does not demand something. But the reality for us was, we as Airbnb want people to live and work anywhere around the world. It's good for our business. We have the supply. We're unique because we have the supply to host homes, individuals in homes. And we also realized that we had a unique relationship with governments and regulators to influence policy that hinders the ability for what I call corporate nomadism in the corporate context for public companies to happen. One of the key drawbacks or limitations for letting people go and live and work anywhere is the actual legalities of having the right work authorization or visa in a particular country so that you can do that. A lot of small companies turn a blind eye, and that's, it's not okay legally, but it flies by because you don't have all eyes on you. You don't have kind of the public company compliance and SOX kind of burden as well. So we said, again, we could just like keep rolling with countries were issuing nomad visas or remote work visas, like Bali and a couple of countries at that point had issued it, which does break the barrier or the limitation we talked about. But we said we could just kind of follow along, tell employees, you can live and work anywhere, but in reality, you can do it for 10 countries that have a nomad visa, because as a US citizen, for someone like myself, I can't go anywhere in the world if they don't have a nomad visa and work. We can have a separate conversation on all the learnings there. But we, in typical Airbnb fashion, said, no, like we have the ability, because of our unique position of working with governments, to influence policies. we have a unique opportunity here to open this or try to slowly break down this barrier so that not just our employees, but the entire global workforce can benefit from it. And over time, our business will grow. So it's like one of those win-win, right? So I pitched that to our exec team, and that's what kind of ended up being with, we want to do this. We want to focus on breaking down the barriers, driving adoption. And to do this, we need to invest and set up a whole team that can work cross-functionally to work through the complexities. And that's how kind of this new team came about initially in that task force. About a week before we were launching the program, we also realized, I don't know if any of you have been into an Airbnb physical office before.
No.
It is mind-blowing. Like, it blew my mind even when I was walking through for an interview. Like, every single conference room in an Airbnb office, no matter which office you go through around the world, is actually built after a listing that exists. So it could be, a listing from, it's great, it's wild. It's like, it could be a listing from Morocco, and this is, you're sitting in a dining room from that listing. Like, it's hard to explain, but my point is, the workplace is energetic, unique, and we were known for that in a lot of ways too. So what we said is, like, our program, our Live and Work Anywhere program, first of all, was holistic, right? We said the Nomad program that we incubated became our differentiator. So it was one aspect of our Live and Work Anywhere program. You can live and work anywhere around the world. We will support you with the complexities. And if there are barriers we can break down, we will break it down for you. Like, countries started adopting nomad work visas because of our influence. And that's not just for us.
Is Spain one of those countries?
Spain and Italy, it was in the parliament, so I don't know if it's actually approved, but it should be pretty close. It is in the works. It is in the works. But Greece, Croatia, Malta, all around there have already been on the list. So it's growing, and that's one big. So that's one of the key differentiators of our program. Couple other dimensions. Our program had maybe 4 dimensions because we wanted to make sure it was relatable to, at least one dimension was relatable to everyone. So the other one was, you can work from home or the office, completely your choice. So I could go in 5 days a week, or I could go in 0 days a week. And that was something that, even as us being parents, like, that is a big win for someone who does not need to commute, and you can kind of be with your kids in morning time or and evening as well. The third pillar was, we took the approach, especially within a country, and this was pretty big, I think, in the US especially, where we removed location-based pay. So no matter where you worked in your country of employment, we would not change your pay. So I could move to Austin, or I could move to a beachfront location in Florida from the Bay Area, and my pay stays the same. Moving to value-based pay from location-based pay was, I think we were one of the first big tech firms that actually did that. And then the fourth was more, I think, something that was very impactful, but a lot of organizations can also do, which is working in a unified way on one roadmap and having intentional in-person gatherings in the year. So just like we meet at HR Transform every year, or Transform as it's called now, like, that was our recharge moment of in-person connection. And then you can kind of go back and build. The whole idea is you can be productive over Zoom, right? We're having a conversation. We took the company IPO with Zoom in a remote work, but to strengthen and build those relationships in person is needed. So we wanted to sprinkle those in. And that's the program. And a week before we were launching it, we realized, because of one of our dimensions, which was you could come into the office or never come into the office, the future of how the physical workspace was going to be utilized and look was going to be different. But we didn't know what that was. So we brought together all the workplace teams globally. We brought together the mobility teams. And that's what we stood up as this new center of excellence. And since I'd kind of pitched the idea, I was set to, and I wanted to lead it. And it was unique because it also worked very closely with public policy. How are we influencing that? It worked with our product teams. It worked with public speaking to really drive the adoption. The whole goal was driving the adoption with HR practitioners, that this can be done. Because almost every company was like, 30 days a year in total, and just don't ask, don't tell. It's low risk. It's cool. Like, you're not going for long. It's not going to cause much alarm. So my whole goal was that I wanted to go out and tell the world how we're doing it, what barriers we are breaking down that everyone can leverage, so that HR professionals can drive these policies in a more flexible way. And in turn, the biggest kicker, hopefully their employees stay at Airbnbs too as they travel. Right. So I pitched this idea that we have this opportunity to really like connect to the business, and whatever we do will drive business and drive, flexibility for everyone. And that's how I got appointed to set up the Center of Excellence. And I spent my last year at Airbnb, really, as you called it, from my LinkedIn presence moment as well, really driving what we've done and really focusing on that up until very recently. So that's the long story. Sorry, it's long.
No,
and
we wanted
a
a long story.
And our audience loves to hear the behind the scenes view on these kind of what we consider pretty epic moments in the people space. And so the interesting things for me, and when I hear these stories, it's hard for me to not go back to the beginning of my journey in HR, which was my first job out of college. And I was a consultant at Ernst & Young. And Ernst & Young had this rogue HR consulting team in their tax practice called Global Mobility. And I had no idea what Global Mobility was. I just was like, oh,
sign me up.
Yeah, Ernst & Young consulting. This sounds cool. And I spent 5 years in that function. And
oh, wow.
Back then, global mobility was not on the radar. These tax laws and physical presence tests that you're talking about, very common things in the global mobility space or talent mobility. But back then, it was a different era, and it's just so fascinating to me that the situation with COVID-19 and lockdown and these needs that we had as human beings kind of led to global mobility becoming a very important thing for companies.
Yeah. And you're spot on, because I think the definition of global mobility changed in the pandemic. To your point, global mobility pre-pandemic was more immigration and relocation and tax equalization, because it was business-driven global mobility. What's changed in the pandemic that I coined with the phrase corporate nomadism is that now individuals are traveling not on business sponsored trips. They're traveling because they want to go somewhere, but they want to work, and the regulations don't allow that.
No.
So that's the flip on global mobility, which is now it's less business, more personal driven, which flips that whole equation. You're not doing you're not providing immigration support a lot of times, or relocation support. So the whole definition of global mobility, which is why we called our team Live Anywhere. We wanted to, we took our global mobility team, added some resources, and we called it Live Anywhere, because the global mobility context and connotation had changed significantly.
Absolutely. The second thing that came up for me is how it's almost like you piloted a program, the Digital Nomad program. You saw success in this program based on what I know what is involved to review and vet every case by case of people that wanted to join the program. And I'm sure there was a ton of work that was involved there, but you identified a trend. And you're like, wait a second, this could be, and you probably have engagement or pulse survey data coming in that's showing you a growing demand. And you're like, hey, I think we can double down on this in a way that is good for our employees and is good for our business. And what an amazing, foresight that you had, or the team, everyone that was involved, because I'm sure it wasn't just you. And to be able to successfully pitch that idea and then get buy-in, and then it became a whole company thing. Because
it's almost like pitching a new product.
Yes,
it is. But I think the only thing I would add to what you said is, we had no freaking clue in 2020 that this was going to be even remotely as big as we thought in 2022. We just went with sticking to our first principles, doing the best for our employees, even if it was 1 year. At that point, we thought we would just do it and flip it back. So the ripple effect it had 18 months later, we didn't even predict that. So I can't even take credit for that. But when the world changed and evolved, and we figured out where we were going, like connecting it at that point was pivotal. But like, we didn't even know, which is crazy, like in terms of, just putting in all the hard work and seeing where it goes sometimes, because you just never know.
You never know. And so before we move on, I want to talk about what this program is not, right? So this program is not a remote first or remote only working environment. It's not. And when I think it's easy if you read the tagline, live and work anywhere, you can start to assume like, oh, well, this could never apply for our business because, this seems like a fully remote program, and it doesn't sound like that's what you were trying to accomplish. It was more of putting the flexibility into your employees' hands to
Right.
make the decisions of what's right for them. The other thing is this isn't a work however you want to work program either, because the last bullet in the article says we'll continue to work in a highly coordinated way. And I think that's really, really important, because I think the leaders out there that may question this, outsiders looking in, it's like, yeah, this is Airbnb, so of course they're going to do something like this, but there's no way that this is practical for my business. And my interpretation is it could be, because you're not sacrificing the way you work. You're just offering flexibility and choice, and empowering your employees to take that on.
Totally. I mean, look, there's the reality of this won't apply to some industries, right? Like if you're on a manufacturing floor or if you're in healthcare, like it's not going to be globally applicable. But you're spot on. I think this is giving that, you have to be intentional on how you work, how you kind of coordinate and keep people in sync, because remote work is not easy. You have to be intentional about it, and it can work. But yeah, you're spot on that.
So I know you were also part of the team. I think it was in 2020, you said, where, you had to do the layoffs, and, it was across 30 countries, and layoffs are always really painful for everyone involved, but y'all did it in the most human way possible. I just remember, again, like another like viral LinkedIn moment for Airbnb, showing, a playbook or giving people a template for how they should be handling things like this. And we don't have to get into the nitty gritty of like how the layoff played out and everything like that. But I'm just more so curious in times of uncertainty, when maybe there isn't a playbook for how you should be doing something, but action is required. Something needs to happen fast, or else you're going to lose the moment, really.
Yeah.
How do you operate in these moments? Like, how do you balance needing to move fast, but also not putting something out there that like totally flops?
It's tough. I think what I normally always kind of go back to is, what are the first principles? Why are we doing something? And if, for example, even if it's a layoffs, it's a shitty situation, right? There's no way to sugarcoat that. But if it's to lead with empathy and make sure that we can do the best we can. So I always go back to like having clear first principles, but also not taking status quo for an answer. Right, like just because all employees used to give 3 months COBRA to individuals that they terminated, what is the context we're doing this in? We were doing it in a healthcare pandemic, so we gave 12 months of COBRA, healthcare coverage. So really like contextualizing the moment with your first principles. And then for individuals like me, it's just, that is where I thrive, right? Like that's the comment I made on the engineer in me, that's still, the engineer in me that still is today. It's like, if people have not done this before and people tell me that it's really hard to do, that's where I get energized. And I was like, I'm going to go do it. Right. So again, it takes a team. Even the layoffs, it was not just me, but I think that's where we always want to not just push our limits, don't take status quo for an answer, but to one of the points you made is, how can we share this with others, right? Like the pain we go through is not just for us, similar to the Live and Work Anywhere program, which is why even the way we did our layoffs, Brian's letter that went to every single employee was open sourced, and it became pretty much the starting point of the playbook. And hopefully, I do believe we changed the landscape of layoffs after that. People started thinking about empathy and what you want to actually give people, versus just goodbye, you're done, out the door kind of thing. So that is also a sense of accomplishment, right? Like if you have that impact, that if you're going to kill yourself, like the layoffs was by far one of the most stressful points in my life. Like I slept 45 minutes a night for a week. I didn't sleep for 60 hours when we started the notifications. But again, in looking back, it was all worth it, because not only for our employees, but we did have a broader impact on that too. So,
and then on the point on open sourcing, we just had a conversation with the former head of people at Remote, She also, her name's Nadia. She also worked at
Yep.
GitLab. And a
Yep.
common thread throughout her career has been working for companies that outsource everything they do on the people side. So I'm just curious, at Airbnb, was this an idea from somebody on the team, like, hey, we should be open sourcing, this stuff that we're working on, or did this come directly from your CEO? How did that come about?
Yes, I mean, a lot of this came directly from our CEO, right? Like he leads with transparency, and he wants to make sure that what we are sharing internally can be shared externally. So there's less room for speculation, honestly. So it comes from Brian. That's his how he wants to lead and hold himself accountable as well, right? Because the lead has gone from him. That's kind of his accountability. So I think for us, it's always been transparency to lead with that as well for our not just for our employees, for everyone. So we can do that. So a lot of this came from Brian directly.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because the second thing that Nadia said when she is looking for the type of organization that she wants to work for is the CEO. And what is the CEO's position on all things people?
Right.
What kind of traits does the CEO show, and do they have a track record of
Right.
showing these traits in their actions that they're taking? Things like empathy and
Yep.
self-awareness and awareness of others. And Brian is a legendary CEO, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
if you follow high tech at all, if you follow really anything, like, Brian is legit, and he's someone that many, Y Combinator background, like the whole
Right.
story is
Yep.
pretty amazing. And so, was that consistent in your experience at Airbnb? Were his fingerprints? Was he really involved in a lot of
Oh yeah.
the
Yeah.
decisions?
Yeah, very, very much involved. And his prints are all over you name it, from the layoffs to the live and work anywhere program. Like he was every single kind of part of it. He was himself involved. We did workshops with him to walk him through the different ways. Even when we pitched the idea of the center of excellence, it was with him. So very, very involved. If we didn't have him, we would not be pushing. It would not be how we approached situations like this.
In my last question, because you've worked at a lot of great organizations with
Yeah.
great leaders. And so what
Yeah.
is the difference with someone like Brian, that, how Brian approached these decisions, how he approached these programs versus some of the other great leaders, but may not have been wired the same way? Like, what are those unique qualities?
Yeah, I think the big unique quality with Brian is he's a designer, right, at heart. So he is what that translates to is a visionary, but more tactically deeply focused on the experience. And this experience could be experience of impacted people when they're getting layoffs, right? It's not just experience of the goods and the programs that are there. So I think that helps folks like me really push the limits. Like some of the things we wanted to do, we could not do. But if he didn't push for us to even try to do that, we would have not even gone halfway. So I think it really goes to just being a visionary. And I think there are other leaders like that think like that, but you really have to like kind of get to know the leaders to make sure that that's the case, to Nadia's point as well, that you made.
So I want to make sure that we talk about the new role. We spent a lot of time talking about Airbnb.
Yeah.
You're a week and a half, 2 weeks into your role at Paper, and you don't. I mean, you've said this over and over today on the call that ambiguity excites you. That's what gives you energy. Building things from scratch, trying new things, right?
Yeah.
And I imagine that there had to be something about the Paper role that was enticing. Is there like any like meaty challenge or something that you're just excited to tackle at Paper that attracted you to the role?
Yeah. So aside from the mission that we talked about, which was something that, working at Airbnb changed me forever. Like if the mission's not strong, like I'm not, it's hard to be excited. But on a more tactical level, I think there's a couple of things. One is Paper went from a Series A to a Series D with like, I'm not completely sure, a couple hundred people to like almost 3,000 in like 18 to 20 months.
Wow.
So there is a lot of fun challenges, even in the people program space, that I'm super excited to just dive in and try to help kind of stabilize with. So that's one. The other unique challenge is a large percentage of the Paper employees are tutors. that because that's one of our key offerings. And in a lot of organizations, tutors might be contractors or the gig workers, right? Like that is normal. But in Paper's context, it's employees. So I really need to dig into like what are the two personas between non-tutors and tutors, and work through all, like, you name it, leveling or benefits. So I'm really excited because I've done a lot of work with the gig workforce. Even at Airbnb, I led the team that kind of brought that together. But this is very unique because it's their employees and part-time employees in some cases. So it's going to be wild, which is what excited me to join as well.
So anytime we have a chief people officer on that has just started a new role, usually they're like 90 days in, not a week or two in. But the question we usually ask is like, what was what did you accomplish the first 90 days? Or like, what were your objectives? And my question for you is, how do you go about, I know it's your first CPO role, but you know, you've had other roles that you've started in the past. Like, how do you go about those first 90 days? Like, we've heard a lot about the book, The First 90 Days, and a lot of people subscribe to that. But I'm curious, do you have a different way of approaching it, or like your own take on that?
Yeah, so for me, it kind of all roots into understanding and getting as much context as I can about the people, in this case, the workforce, like the tutor population and not, and the business. So I'm really dedicating like my first 4 to 6 weeks out of the 90 days on really knowing that I don't know a lot, and really absorbing and understanding. So it's been meeting with, like, I have a pretty large people team. I made the commitment to meet every single one in the first month, one-on-one, to just spend 30 minutes, get to know their goals, get to know them on a personal level. Next week, I'm going up to Canada, which is where the company is based, for the board meeting. So I'll get more context on kind of where we stand as a business and where we're going. The week after that, we have a full week dedicated to tutors. It's called Tutor Takeover in
Busy
Vegas.
schedule.
And I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to spend time with the entire tutor population to understand what their sentiment is, what their needs are. So for me, it's really the first 6 to 8-ish weeks is really spending a lot of time and energy. It is tiring, but I do believe it's worth it, in investing in relationships, context, understanding where we are. And in parallel, then also really aligning our people priorities to where the context is and where the business is going and shifting, and then really focusing on the foundation and starting to make impact after that, in terms of what we can roll out and what we pick. So it's a lot of learning, digesting. It's a new industry for me as well, which is, again, I'm passionate about it, but I don't know enough about it as well. So making sure I recognize that, and just investing in learning, and then kind of moving into kind of owning and executing towards the end of that 90 days, is what I'm looking for.
On the learning point, what are some of the learning resources for you? Just as like a people leader or a business leader.
Oh, as a people, I mean, for me, it's like it's couple, right? There's my networks that I have from, be it groups like People Tech Partners or People Leader Academy that I went through as well. So for me, it's having the pockets of networks that I rely on and lean on each other to help. So that's one big resource. Otherwise, I'm podcast. You know, you guys have one. There's Lars has a great one as well. So I listen to I listen more from digesting. I learn more from just, I'm not a big reader. So there's podcasts. There's also the All In podcast that I listen to every week that tells me the macroeconomic, like what's going on. And I love how they have various views on it. So listening to podcasts and relying on networks is, and then the rest is like, just figure it out if you don't know, and iterate. Like, you know, you may not get it right, but iterate towards greatness is kind of one philosophy that I can also live by as well.
I love that. I love that. And there's so many things. I'm hearing a little bit of UX driven kind of design and your approach, and you know, an agile approach, like get feedback in terms of your first 90 days. And so I just had an idea, Daniel. We haven't done this before because we've never had a people leader who just joined a new company, but maybe we can have you back, Q, in like 180 days. So like, how's it going?
Check in.
Yeah, let's check in on your plan. And so unfortunately, we can't dig into those things now, though, because we've reached that point of the conversation. It's time to turn the corner and bring our discussion to a close. But before we do that, you've listened to the show. We have a couple segments left. The next one is what we call rapid fire questions. It's the same set of questions we ask each people leader that joins us. And so are you ready? I'm going to just jump in here.
Let's do it. Let's go.
And I'm excited about the first question. So how do you, Q, define a modern people leader? What are the traits and characteristics?
The way I would define it is it's a leader that wants to understand the business first and then tries to figure out what the right people strategy is versus the other way around.
I love that. Love that. And I agree with that. Next question. If you could go back in time and talk to a 22-year-old you, what career advice would you give yourself and why?
I would say that your career is a journey. I said it earlier, but it took me years to like understand that it's not just 1 or 2 years that, you know, you do need short-term focus, but also don't lose sight of things will play out in a way that you never expect. So just focus on learning and focus on gaining as many transferable skills as you can. Because the way my journey played out, like it played out amazing, but I wish I could tell my 22-year-old self, like, don't worry, just learn and things will fall in place. Easier said than done, but that's what I would probably say.
Yeah, well, I wish you could go back and tell 22-year-old Steven that as well, because that would have been useful for me to hear. And the last question in this segment, we first you were at Transform, so we have to give credit where credit's due. This is our newest rapid fire question.
Okay.
Shout out to Allison Baum Gates. She had this as part of the VC panel that they had, and it's called Future or Fad. And so, of all the trends that we're hearing about right now or in the last few months, what is the future of work? And what is just a fad? So one example or one trend that you think truly is the future of work and one trend that you just think is a fad.
I think the future work is employee-driven flexibility. I think the pendulum will keep shifting. I know the macroeconomic conditions are a bit interesting in tech, but I think it's going to be employee-driven flexibility, no matter what that is. So that's, I think, one trend on future work that's not going to go away. It's here to stay. And employees will find the right organizations that provide them what they would like over time. In terms of fad, it's an interesting one. I think, I'm going to go with a little bit of a provoking thought here. I would say AI, and I'm going to leave it at I'm going to leave it at, you want to dig in? You want to
No. You can leave it at that. I was going to say, I love how you're just leaving it at that.
Yep. And I am a fan of AI. I'll just leave it at that. But I think AI is also a fad.
Interesting.
All right. So as I was mentioning at the top of the episode, we ask every guest this question, and this is how we've been able to source so many amazing guests.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who do you admire? Like, who do you admire that maybe we don't hear from as often, but is just a great thinker on all things people that you think we should have onto the show? And it could be somebody that maybe is out there talking, but who should we have onto the show?
Yeah, I'll give you, I don't know, because I've listened to a bunch of yours, but remind me, has Andrew Bartlow been on your podcast already?
He hasn't, but I'm actually in touch with his, I don't know if it's his PR person. They reached out. So I think we're going to have him on. Yeah.
He is, just an amazing human in a lot of ways, but he's been my mentor, coach, and friend for like 7 years now. And I went through PLA. So Andrew is one that I was going to recommend if you haven't. AJ Thomas is another one that comes to mind, from X, the Moonshot Factory. I don't know if you have had her already as well.
We haven't.
But I know you've had a lot of folks that I know, Darren and others as well. So I'm glad I was able to at least name 2 that have not been, because I was thinking that you probably have already gone through, because what are you at, number 95, 96?
No, we're at 107, but really we've put out like 115.
Oh,
so
wow, okay.
And we have 15 in the chamber just waiting to get published.
It's a lot.
There's a lot of content.
This question is getting harder and harder.
It will be. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So on to our final tradition, which is one word or phrase close. And it's just however we want to close out the show. Anything that's coming to mind for you?
Learning.
I'm going to say iterate toward greatness.
You said one word. That's why I picked learning.
Oh, one word or phrase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll go with a phrase, but kind of in between the two of you. I'm going to say trust the journey. Trust the journey.
Love it.
Well, Q, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Everything that I was hoping it would be. Thank you for being
everything and more.
Everything and more. Yeah. And thank you for trusting us to have an open and candid conversation.
Yep.
letting us behind the scenes on some things that are near and dear to you that we truly, and not only us, but the people community admire the work that you've done. And so it's been a pleasure talking.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to check out the DJ feature tonight.
It is. It's a
Same.
game changer. It's a
Same.
game changer.
Awesome. Well, have a good weekend.
Yep, you too.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.